So much energy. Well, today more and more people are taking on unconventional jobs, and a lot of people look at these as side gigs, but they pay the bills and they do what they need to do with the side gigs that they're doing. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Let me introduce our guest for this evening, and I'll start with right across, David Mutaka, who is he has been an HR for 15 years, and he's working with Stanbic right now, and he's the HR in charge of learning and development. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Josephine.
Well, right next to David is Dr. Nora Njuba Bwaya, who is a performance coach. You're a performance coach with Coach Africa. Welcome to the show, Nora.
Thank you.
And finally, you've been voted the most vocal, so I saved you for last. Raymond Malinga, who is an animator and the director of Creatures Animation, and you might have heard of his short film, Akalabanda Ate My Homework. I don't know how we came up with that title. So let's get into our conversation. I want to know how you got there. Let's say it as it is. I want to know what an animator does.
An animator. What an animator does is basically what they call the illusion of life. We bring ideas to life through, simply we're cartoonists, right? We make cartoons and we make them come to life. We make you feel like what you're watching is as good as the person sitting right next to you.
Okay.
Right?
Is yours an unconventional job?
Yes, I would say it's an unconventional job.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's get a definition of what an unconventional job and what a conventional job is. Who'd like to share with us what that is?
I think when we talk about non-conventional, we are talking about jobs that are based on people's interests or talents, as opposed to jobs that are crafted out of the need in the economy. For example, doctors, engineers, jobs that we've always heard about, the traditional kind of careers.
What does the education system prepare you for? So there is no school for animation. It's almost you're self-taught, or if he has studied, then he teaches himself.
But if there's a school for art, we have schools for art.
So there's schools for art, and even the schools for art are late developments. But if you think about the last 30, 40 years, you go to primary school, get to S4, sciences, arts, you go lawyer, you go doctor, you go engineer. And for me, that is the safer, more structured, the road that's more traveled, for lack of a better phrase, would make up convention. Then anything that's not traveled, that's considered informal, you have to make it yourself. No one has laid the paths, the rules of the game. With the conventional sector, there are rules of the game. It's an 8 to 5. You have to wear a suit and tie. You know the customer. With an unconventional, you don't. You almost have to make it up as you go along. I don't know.
Well, I would say I agree with everything you're saying, but then I would also say that I think that what's unconventional and what's conventional is it's relative.
Yes.
So you'll find that there was a time in society when being, let's say, an accountant was unconventional, but now it is a conventional job. Yes. So I think that most unconventional jobs right now are eventually going to become conventional if society, actually accepts them.
Evolution,
you see, yes, it's basically the evolution of jobs, right? So that's what I think. And
what did you want to be growing up?
Me, what I wanted to be, I actually remember this quite clearly. My parents asked me, and I said, I want to do something with computers. That's it, right? But I'd always had this need to tell stories, and I didn't know that was what animation was, right?
So you actually got to do what you wanted.
Yeah, I'm actually among the few people, I think.
Using computers.
Yeah, I wanted to do that. That's what I wanted to do. I can't say I wanted to be an animator, because at first I was going to be a programmer, but what I wanted to do with programming was I wanted to do something that it wasn't like databases. I wanted to program with function, and this was before apps came, right? But now apps, I think I would have been a programmer, like an app developer in another life.
Well, you're lucky to be doing what you like to do. What did you want to do?
Therein lies your definition of what is non-conventional. When we are getting people to come up with a career, it is a matter of getting them to express where their energies are, what is it that they are interested in? What are they passionate about? What do they do? And time passes, they don't even realize it. So you get to do something, you love it so much, and then they pay you. But over time, that will become a standard profession. Once the rules have been set, then it starts moving into, like what he says, professions evolve.
Who sets the rules?
Who sets the rules? Once you get a collection of people that have started doing that, like coaching, for example. Coaching is a very new profession across the globe. And once you get many coaches getting together and they want to put in place a little bit of structure,
institutionalization,
then it starts becoming a real profession that has rules, procedures, a code of conduct, and over time, the younger people coming up will say, oh, you mean being a coach? That's been there for years. So it's no longer, so I would say non-conventional are cool things.
How do you identify? So for example, these guys in the audience, how do you identify that this is what I want to be if all your life the people ahead of you have been talking about lawyers, doctors, and engineers, and this is the future? Mm-hmm. How do you set yourself apart, think about it, and say, this is what I want to be?
I think what I would say is that partly it is society that should kind of change a bit to allow people to be free, right? But because I say that because what I'm about to say, I have to be very realistic about it because society is also a factor. Yeah. But I think you should identify what you like doing, right? And then get really good at it, right? And then.
But how do I identify what I like doing if I've been programmed to think a certain way?
Yeah,
I think just try things. That's what I think. That
is one way. Do you want to give it a shot?
How do you know what you want to do? I think you have to experiment.
Yeah.
And you'll find things you do really well and things that you do, as you said, and time passes. And at first, it doesn't look like anyone will pay you for it. Mm. So, for example, sports. I used to play sports. And at some point, your parents came and, can you say you're failing school, you cannot play sports. Mm. But right now, people are taking their kids to academy. So, sort of say sports as an example. I say, can I do anything with this? Do I have the time? But considering the risk, I think the conventional versus unconventional. Unconventional is more risky because you're traveling down a path, almost walking a tightrope with no net.
Mm. The road less traveled.
Yes. Yes. So if I'm a parent, or if you're a parent, you're saying, I don't want my child doing that. But the higher the risk, the higher the return. Yes. And so the idea is, how much commitment do you have to that? And because people fear committing and then changing your mind, say, you know what, let me make up your mind for you. You're here. When you get old enough, you'll choose what you want to do. And I think it's never too late to change careers or to start over. I've seen people who, like for example, DJ Epman. I remember him in university somewhere. You're an accountant, you discover music, you say, you know what, I'm playing music part-time. Then before you know it, you've made it big enough to be full-time. Mm-hmm. And so it is, you can't say there's good and bad. You have to take it a step at a time. But you will know. I think you'll always know, like you said, you have an inkling that you talk a lot. You are creative. You enjoy sports. You enjoy numbers and things like that. And that starts to guide you. And sort of, if you look around you, you sort of say, how does this help anyone?
Maybe this is my thing.
David, I want to take David.
Dr. Nora, before you do that, yes. Let's take a short break, and then you'll start us off when we return.
Okay, that is fine.
Salons, we offer professional barber, hairdressing at Lugogo Mall, Garden City, Forest Mall, Oasis Mall, and Acacia Mall. Sparkle Salon, professional, affordable, and quality services.
Welcome back. We're coming to you from the Kampala Solar Conference Center. And before we took a break, Dr. Nora, you had something to say.
Yeah, we were talking about how do I know? And yes, I would agree that in one way or another, most people do the trial and error way. But now you don't have to do that. because that's what career coaches actually do. And how do we do it? We ask the questions, simple, ordinary questions.
For example?
What do you love doing? How would you spend your time if you found you have an extra day it wasn't planned for? What is it that you would love to do during that day? Or what is it that you do, time passes, you don't realize, you don't get tired, you just love it so much? What kind of compliments do people give you? You are so good at that. Is if you do not live with very mean people, yeah? Somebody would have told you, you do this very well. How would you do that? Especially when you think, but everybody should do this. For you, it comes natural. For other people, it's like, wow. So with a series of questions, you can cause a person to get to learn, and you keep picking data points, you connect them, and there it is. There is a career for you.
Well, if I'm able to do that, think through all that and, you know, ask myself those questions and get to where I want to be.
Yeah.
But I have my parents who are very conventional.
Yeah.
How do you start explaining to them that this is my passion, this is where I've found myself? Because we still have parents who believe in a certain kind of system.
I think the formal education has a part to play. It grounds you. So I'd say, unless you're going to say, you know, even if you're going to become a professional footballer, the formal sort of education has a place. It sets the background. Then once you get to a certain stage, to experiment and say, I can actually do X. Do I know the societies that do that? Do I know the networks that do that sort of profession? Am I involved with them? Am I reading up on it? And these days, internet has narrowed the world. So there's much more information. There's much more networking. And so then you evolve and get into it. And sometimes you find that maybe you're misguided. You know, you think you love something, and maybe you just love the coolness of it, and it's not really you. So whereas you think you know, I think it grows on you. And so you may say, I speak well, I should be on TV. Maybe not. Maybe you should be teaching, as an example. So when you think about your contribution really and say, what would my biggest contribution be? And where would I want to see the impact? Then that starts to drive you to where you should be. And careers are wider than just jobs, right? So a career could be a span of jobs that actually leads you to finding, saying, what, this is where I have the highest impact. So for example, Nora as a coach right now, her experience to the point that leads her to coaching is so important that she'll probably not be as great a coach without all those previous experiences. And I don't know, that's my view.
I would like to add this, that we have to recognize anyone who wants to do an unconventional job, especially in our kind of economy, that we are the pioneers, right?
Yes.
And what we're going through, parents telling you this, society telling you that, is actually what happens with any pioneers anywhere.
Yes.
That's a reality. So what I would encourage you to do is attach what you love to do to something a bit conventional as well. And what I mean is that so that people can really understand the value of it.
So give us an example.
Like, let me say, let me give an example as, DJing full time, let's say, and then I won't use animation. I know animation. Let me use animation, right?
You could use a doctor.
Let me use animation right now because that's what I understand. So we want to do commercial animation, right? And there's this challenge that the way they do it in, let's say, America, they have had time to refine and go through all this pioneer stage and all that. So if we try to do it at their level right now, you find there's a pushback in society because they don't understand it. So what we have to do is attach our animation to values that people can understand here. For example, we were talking with Nora earlier about doing something to explain her profession. You see, that's a need, right? And so animation can attach itself there, so she sees the value, right? So what I would advise is, if you have something unconventional, or you bring up something unconventional, to go past this parent problem and all this, you can't blame them for how they're thinking, right? But you have to kind of find a way to frame it in a way they can understand, but you're still not selling your soul, right? That's what I believe.
Well, are these the jobs of the future? For example, the DJing, the dancers, the jobs that were initially hobbies, are they the future?
I think
You could add them. You don't have to detach them. That's what I wanted to add to Raymond's bit. You do not have to detach them. I could be a doctor, but then I discover I do a few self-assessment. I profile myself, and I come up. I know I love children. I sing beautifully, but then I'm a doctor. I can connect my singing to children. I go to be, maybe I study to become a children's doctor, a pediatrician, and then I use voice, my singing, to help children recover. And then people get to know me as the singing doctor. So I'm bringing something new, attaching it to a conventional job or career, and then I make it a beautiful thing for me.
Okay.
That right there is the job of the future.
So
Integrating a lot of things to stand out. Those are the careers of the future.
We're told that in 10 years, some of the jobs we know now will be no more.
Sure.
Yes.
You
No
all
doubt.
Totally agree. Give me examples so that we can start.
There's a common one. I hope I don't get hated by the people
It's okay.
I'm saying. I'm a big fan of artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence is going to be one of the things that's going to wipe out a lot of people. Not killing them, but their jobs. It's going to wipe out their jobs. So lawyers, right? Lawyers, there's this thing where AI can do the research that a lawyer does in seconds, you see. And so the need for that research and that time that they pay lawyers to do all that is no longer necessary.
But who's going to go to court?
Right? No, they can still go. I mean, like, it's going to reduce the number of lawyers that are necessary, you see. Then there's also doctors, right? They're at risk because a computer can scan you and figure out what's wrong with you much faster than a doctor can.
But we're looking at the developed world.
Yeah, but even
Yes, yeah, no,
But
I'm
we are
talking about that.
developing over time. We won't always remain like
banking as
this.
well.
Look
Yes.
at banking as an example, and the evolution of tellers. We now have intelligent machines that can count money, recognize us, and give you change. So a teller's job of receiving money is changing. So I have to find a way to make myself relevant.
Yes.
So that I make the individual comfortable with the machine, or I actually find out about their aspirations in terms of their finances. Otherwise, if I say I'll be the best money counter ever, a computer is always going to count money faster than me.
True.
It will recognize the notes faster. It will never get shortages. So that job is going. Processing at the back, now it's straight through. If I want to pay you, no one has to go to the back and write an, RTGS or whatever it is. The computer pays someone, it goes. So there are many middle jobs in there
That are gone.
Most automated processes anywhere are probably going to go away.
Yeah.
And things that a computer can calculate faster, it's going to take over.
Yeah,
right?
Consider when we started, one of our guests here mentioned they want to be an auditor. If you want to be an auditor and there is absolutely no other value added, then you'll become irrelevant because somebody else will do exactly the same or a computer will do it better. But if I'm an auditor and then I decide to do law as well, then I can become an investigative auditor.
But
I'm
he just
adding
said
value.
lawyers also losing.
No, no,
Yeah, but
no.
you connect, the idea is get a number of skills, connect them, then you have something unique to offer. And especially if that something unique has a need for some, maybe some emotion in it or something like that. But if it is a plain standard, even teachers will become, they will have to change, either you change and bring some other value other than knowledge, because knowledge is everywhere now.
But how then do I commercialize my hobby? Because if you say I become a singing doctor,
Yeah.
I'm still going to have the same pay. I'm still, how do I...
No, not really.
How do I forget the example I used, but how do I commercialize this hobby that I have? What you're doing, for example?
Yes, I think it goes back to finding what society wants to pay you for.
Exactly.
Right. And I go back to what Nora was saying, which is you mismatch like values together to create a new value.
Okay.
You see, a singing doctor is more valuable than just a normal doctor. You see, right?
Especially for children.
For children, right? Okay, in the right place, a singing doctor would be valuable. There are parents out there who would rather pay for a singing doctor who sings really well than
you could be a bad singer.
Yes. So like it's really about if you find it's about value. The reason why people pay for things is because it's satisfying a need that they have, right? So you have to just find what people are asking for or what they need. Then maybe you can mix the unconventional with the conventional, and then you create a new thing that is valuable, and people will be willing to pay for it with this added value. That's
but
what
I think you also have to be able to price it.
Okay.
And speak about it confidently.
Yeah.
So many of us, and thinking about, if I have a side gig, so I say, sometimes people want me to MC. And say, okay, you MC, but I'll give you 50K. And you're like, you man, how serious is your function? But if you don't know, then you take the 50K.
Yeah.
So even as a singing doctor, to say, look, how important is your child's life to you? And what's the middle line that I can say, I can price at this point and be so professional that you get value for your money.
Sure.
So, and many times around some of the unconventional jobs. So you find like, you're a DJ, you're an animator, you're even programming to a great extent, and even emceeing, which this that are evolving. People don't want to pay you for them. They're like, but you're just a DJ, what are you doing? You're just playing the music. I'm sure, if someone can play it in the crowd. So people don't see the value you add. So you have to be able to express that value and price with confidence. And also choose the market that actually appreciates
which is what
that
I was
value.
about to say, which is you have to know your audience.
Not everyone will appreciate your value.
Yes.
There are people who just have a house party and it's a gig. They don't understand how music is mixed. So even if you wanted them to pay 10,000, they'll say no. We have my iPod, it will play.
Okay.
Yeah, so
If you have an audience, if you know your audience, usually the biggest industries that we know today actually grow out of just some specific people needing them. You understand? So you might find that nobody really believed that a vet could, like, let's say, help animals, sick animals, but then some few people believed in it. Then if you know your audience, then the audience is the one that kind of starts doing the marketing for you and helping you out, you see. So you have to kind of understand your audience, who needs that thing and who is willing to pay for it.
Okay.
In other words, we need to start, it's a change in mindset. Before, people would leave school and they go to start working and they expect, I'll find they already have a skill and I'll just fit in. Now, with the non-conventional, you are creating value for a certain market. So you know that your skill is the product that you have. And whatever people would have done to market clothes in a shop or whatever it is that they market, you know that you are marketing your skill. So you become an entrepreneur and find which is the particular market that I'm going to be addressing. If you have a talent, there has to be need on the other side. And who needs it? What are they likely to pay? What more can I add to add value to this so that I make it even more useful, then I can charge even higher? So you consider your set of skills as a package that is being taken to the market, then you find what you need to charge. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's take another short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're coming to you from the Kampala Serena Conference Center, Nile Room, and we're still talking about the unconventional employment versus traditional employment. Well, I wanted to ask, for somebody who is already in the conventional employment, can my HR in, for example, my organization help? Are they in position to help people in their organizations, knowing that, like we've agreed, in 10 years some jobs will not be there? Are they able to prepare to harness that skill that people have in the organizations to prepare them for the future?
Speaking from a person who's practicing, I think there's an opportunity for us to do that. But the primary is to get your job done. So most organizations are thinking about their work. But the opportunity to really do that is actually very important. So to know what people are doing, so prepare avenues for people to declare. Say this is what I do as my side gig. And make sure that there's no conflict of interest, right? So if I'm a DJ and I'm in a bank, there's no conflict of interest really, unless I DJ during banking hours. So
I wouldn't mind doing a little bit of DJ over lunch.
yeah, but as I said, make sure that there's no conflict of interest,
Yeah.
but declare it. Because then sometimes some of the opportunities are the bank is the best buyer for those services. Then allow people to express those, so be more productive during the day so that I have a 5 to, let's say 5 to 10, those are my hours. How do I use those hours towards my gig, my passion?
Okay.
And you find that those are the most engaged and productive employees. Whereas some employers see them as the wrong types. I think for me, they're actually the people who are focused, who understand value. So providing the framework for them to exist is important.
So most of the conventional jobs require a certain education level.
Yeah.
And the unconventional, most of them don't.
Oh, they do.
Okay, some of them don't. That's what you
Some
have
of them,
passion, you
yes.
have, you have the skill. How do you reconcile the two? Looking at, we're going ahead with the future, and most human resource managers are looking at your education background.
Actually, I'm hoping that will change. In my job as a performance coach, one of the things I'm doing with human resource managers and leaders of all sorts, I encourage them to discover what is behind the people that they see at work. Yeah, when they go to work, many of them put on a face and they present as an accountant. And yet there is a lot more behind that face. The more you know about your staff, the more value you get out of them. If, for example, I can give my own example. When I started doing the coaching thing, I was employed. And I asked my employer to give me an opportunity to exercise what I really love to do. And I was given, if I can remember, it's a long time ago, I was given 4 hours in a week to do what I love doing most. And with time, I started noticing, oh, but I only look forward to those 4 hours. Why shouldn't I do this full time? And I gave them an opportunity. I said, we could be doing this performance coaching, which they needed anyway. But for the years that I was there doing performance coaching, they were getting more out of me as a resource than they would have if they never listened to what else I had and I loved. So I think it works, and research has shown that when people combine what they are passionate about with their jobs, they become more authentic, they are happier, everybody wins.
Okay, well, I want to again ask a related question. When our children go to school, so they've just finished, S4 results are out.
Yeah.
You're looking at biology, math, physics, and that is where your concentration is. And a lot of parents are thinking about the grades the child has gotten, and it all comes back to the performance, education-wise, in terms of these subjects, traditional subjects. How do we go beyond that to actually look at the other skills? So maybe swimming, and this child is good at maybe dancing, or is good at, how do we get to that point?
Well, I think the issue is that it's not that those things aren't in schools, it's just that they're discouraged, right? So you find that the kid who was good at football at some point is told to stop concentrating on football, start concentrating on their books, right? So I think it's just really about allowing people to express themselves a little more, right? And sometimes the system should really, the system should learn how to identify what someone is good at and encourage them.
The media can also do it, because the reason that parents out there feel very insecure when their children say, oh, I'm going to sing, they're like, oh my God, I haven't seen many successful people singing, or I've seen successful people singing, but maybe the value system is not where I would like my child. As we get more and more young people getting into these kinds of new careers, if you call it that, they will start gaining confidence. And then they are like, the traditional jobs are not there anyway, or they are very hard. So now it will be either they find a career of their heart, or they will stay unemployed. And then the other one will start being a little bit more attractive than getting them to stay at home. So media has something to do. You can start profiling people that are in these other, the newer kinds of careers. And then the parents start gaining confidence. But my advice to young people would be, study anything. study anything and get a degree, because a first degree just proves that you have maybe half a brain to be molded into whatever you want to do. And then after you've gotten that degree, you then can, you've earned your right out of your parents, whatever they want you to do. And then now you can discover yourself. And the time is there. Sometimes they feel like they have to, time is running up. That time will be there. Get that first degree, get a very good one, and then discover yourself. I would say you go to a performance coach. Now that is called Kalango.
Yeah, but
well, thank you, Dr. Nur. I think those were your closing remarks. Yes.
So the foundation is important. Get the math right. Because if you can get money, you can't count it. It's a problem. So get the foundation right. So
can't argue with that.
Yeah. So the S4, but don't get hung up with the results. I was not on the radio. Who won and what?
I wasn't in the papers.
Yes, that sometimes causes the wrong behavior.
Vanity.
Then take a longer term view. To the point that you made, skills are now the new currency.
Yes.
And a skill is not math. I can have mathematical skills, but how do I apply them to add value? So skills are the new currency, and to the point that you no longer go and say, what is the starting pay for this? That is gone. What can you do? What's productivity? How can you add value? So thinking about the skills that I'm developing as I go along and being present to know that I have these skills. Because sometimes life just passes you by and you say, what do you do again? And I work in a bank, but I don't know what I do there. So what skills have I picked up that can actually make a difference? And for parents as well, the world is changing. The things we are learning now, in 2 years will be absolutely gone. But how do I have skills that allow me to evolve and to learn quickly and to do different things and recognize that the future is human? You know, so how do I truly remain human? So I can coach, I can connect, I can sell, I can give confidence, I can reassure, because those are the places that people have issues with that computers can't get into.
Okay, what I would say is this, my advice to young people is fail fast, fail early, fail fast, and fail forward, right? The advantage you have over anyone who is older than you is that you have just slightly more time than he does, you see. So if you make a lot of mistakes, you get to the solution much faster, you see. So the problem is that our systems and our parents, let's say, do not allow us to fail, you see. You're always told, this is how other people did it, you see, so this is how you should do it too. And so you don't keep on, let's say, refining that skill that you would have actually built up, you see. So I would tell you to just keep on, that's innovation and that's entrepreneurship. It's risk, it's challenging yourself, it's constantly innovating. That's what the world is like right now, you see. So I'll tell you to start failing very early. Don't be afraid of failure. It's very weird, but it's actually true. Don't be afraid of failure. Just start failing. Say, today I'm going to try to do chapatis, right? Chapatis don't work out. Muchomo doesn't work out, you see, right? But now the thing is this, you're armed with one thing more than the other person who didn't fail, which is, you know what you're not good at. He doesn't, you see. So if he tries it, he's just going to have to go through all that stuff, right?
And Raymond, you're coming from a place where you've tried quite a number of things. You were dancing, right?
Oh my God. Yes.
You thought we'd forgotten.
Yes, I thought you had forgotten.
No, we hadn't forgotten. Raymond was a dancer with Hot Steps.
I was on Hot Steps.
Hot Steps, yes. So you
up,
tried quite a bit of things.
Anyway, fail fast. No, but I'm joking. Yeah. But I've tried. I didn't exactly. I personally employ this whole thing of failing fast and failing forward within my system or at my company, and which is I encourage all my teammates to try to find out what they're good at so that they can be valuable in the system, you see. So try this today, try that tomorrow. Then eventually someone's like, I really love doing this. And he will always come to work with a smile, you see, right? Because you've allowed him to fail, you see. So for me, that's what I tell you, I would encourage you to do.
Thank you very much, Raymond. Unless any of you would like to add something before we close our show tonight.
Maybe a short one for young people to know that if you find something that you love, something you are passionate about, you are likely to be among the best in that area. If you go for something because your parents told you, you've seen some other person do it, you will always be a copy. It is difficult to compete that way.
All right.
I think that say the same thing. You have your own unique contribution, and if you don't contribute it, the world is missing. So you have to find that, whether that is conventional or unconventional. But if you don't bring the real you, the world misses quite a bit. So.
All right. Well, thank you all so
No,
much for
no, me.
our time is fast spent.
No, I have one
Okay, I'll
last
give
thing
you
to
5
say.
seconds to
Yes,
say
yes. You should support pioneers in the country. That's what I would say, right? Because if you don't support them, why would they support you? Understand? So yeah, that's it.
Well, that was 5 seconds. Good
Okay.
job. Well, that's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We've been talking about unconventional employment versus traditional employment. And the show will be uploaded on YouTube in case you have your friend or somebody hasn't watched it tonight and you think they should watch it. But thanks for watching. NTV Weekend Edition is coming up next.